Hi, I'm Max. Welcome to my Hotend replacement adventure. You will learn how to upgrade to a V6 style Hotend and improve the cooling while doing so. Stick around. The MP Select Mini V2 is my first 3D printer. It served me very well until it suddenly decided to always clog up the nozzle and entire Hotend. I recently tried to fix it by mounting a 40mm fan to keep the heat break cooler, but that didn't work. So I decided to finally get it printing again. To fix the clogging problem, I did some research and figured that switching to an E3D V6 style Hotend is the best solution. Mostly because the printer comes with an E3 V5 style Hotend, which has a similar design. That in mind, it should be a drop-in replacement. So the first thing I had to do is opening the metal covers on the bottom and Z-axis. To get the Z-axis cover off, these screws need to be removed at the top and these at the bottom. The fan shroud is removed by unclamping these two springs. Then the two screws need to be unscrewed to free the old Hotend. The wires inside the Z-axis gantry get removed and pulled out. Next, I shortened the Hotend wires to about the length of the old one. I cut the connectors and soldered the wires to the new Hotend. Before soldering, make sure that you put on your heat shrink tubes, otherwise you may open your nice soldering joints again. This, of course, has never ever happened to me before. Since the new Hotend is a bit shorter than the original one and the nozzle won't be able to get close enough to the print pad, I recommend to use the Hotend mount designed by a Thingiverse user Cosbot. I printed it on my Ender 3. The link to the mount is in the description. To put the new Hotend in place, the old one has to be removed first. The screws are hidden behind the belt of the X-axis gantry. To get to them, the belt tensioner must be released. This is best done with a pair of pliers. Then take out the two screws with the nuts and the whole thing reversed for the new one. And well, getting the belt tensioner back in took me way longer than I want to admit here. When everything is back in place, the Hotend with the nozzle facing forward is put into the holder. Then, with the original black counterpart, it is fixed in place. Finally, the Hotend and part cooler is fixed with the clamps. Finished. Or is it? Well, not really. I then printed a test benchy and looked at the result. That's when I noticed that the printer prints again without clogging, but the quality was far from what I expected. Even with the 40mm fan connected directly to 12 volts, the part cooling was not effective enough. On my test benchy the front looked good, the back was not so cool. Get it? Not so cool? Because there was not enough cooling? First, I thought maybe the fan shroud is the issue. I then tried a few different designs to finally realize that it just doesn't work properly with just one fan. Spoiled by my Ender 3, I just had to find something better. Doing my search on the Thingiverse, I stumbled over this one. It promises way better part cooling due to the dedicated fan and of course, theoretically being able to turn off the part cooling fan completely for printing PETG. Alright, so I started the print and ordered a 5015 fan off of eBay. Because there are now two fans at the Hotend, I have to put a second pair of wires. I use these jumper cables. I plug the jumpers to the right length, and to prevent them from opening, I wrap the connectors with Kapton tape. I then plug the cables on the mainboard side into the already prepared fan connector. I did this for the 40mm fan mod. On the Hotend side, I cut the plugs off and solder them to the radial fan. But before you do that, please measure the polarity. I read that some MP Minis have them switched for the fan. To do this, you have to preheat the Hotend to over 60 degrees so the fan controller gives out some voltage. Then simply measure with a multimeter if you really have plus on the red wire. The cable for the Hotend fan is already soldered directly to the 12-volt power supply. I then just switched from the 40mm fan to the 30mm original one. To install the new fan shroud, the old one and the black mount which holds the Hotend in place needed to be removed. The new dual fan shroud is then fixed in place using the same screws as for the black mount. Then the fan gets installed. You should be able to use the original screws to mount the 30mm fan. In my case, the fan was such a tight fit that I couldn't get it all the way in, so I just wedged it in place. The radial fan mounts with a M4 by 25mm screw. Now a function test.
Und jetzt schauen wir mal, ob das funktioniert. Das ist geil. Es funktioniert.
Nice, everything works. So I leveled the bed and started another test print. And here are the results. The left benchy is the one printed with just one fan, and the right one is printed with a dual fan config. You probably can't see much of a difference because of my light setup, but let me tell you. The single fan did provide good print quality on the front of the print, but on the back side it was lacking cooling. The layers drooled along the side and the edges curled up. The dual fan setup though is quite different. The front and back have the same quality, even though one edge lifted off the print bed slightly. I can really recommend to do this mod. Now that I have two fans at the hot end, I want the part cooling fan to be fully controllable. So in a future video I will cover my adventure flashing Marlin to the MP Select Mini V2. And oh boy, it was quite a journey. Running into limitations with the Windows Explorer and finally have an excuse to using my virtual machines. It will be fun, stick around. Oh, I almost forgot to say something about the new Hotend. Well, I don't quite notice a difference to the original one as it was still working. Though if you're starting to have problems with it, don't hesitate and switch it out. That's really all I can say. Alright, that's it for the video. See you in the next one.